I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez.
Well, as we continue to discuss President Trump's State of the Union, we're joined by Ana Maria Archila, a co-executive director of the Center for Popular Democracy. She attended the address as a guest of New York Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
In September, Ana Maria Archila made headlines when she, along with another woman, Maria Gallagher, confronted Republican Senator Jeff Flake of Arizona in an elevator after he announced his support of Judge Brett Kavanaugh's confirmation to the Supreme Court. Shortly after the confrontation, Senator Flake called for a delay of the Senate vote pending a limited FBI investigation. Ana Maria Archila, how did it feel to be in the chamber, in the House of Representatives, what many were calling Pelosi's house, to hear President Trump? And there, of course, were the Supreme Court justices, not all of them. Justice Alito wasn't there. Justice Thomas wasn't there. Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg wasn't there. Justice Sonia Sotomayor wasn't there. But the man you were protesting, Justice Kavanaugh, was, along with Chief Justice Roberts and Gorsuch and Elena Kagan.
Good morning. It was really a night of contrasts. It was both incredible to see the sea of white, of women wearing white, representing both the history of our country, the history of women who have struggled to win the right to vote and to win the right to represent all of us, and who are actually the ones that are carrying the vision of a new country, a country that is possible, where all of us can live with dignity, like what Representative Omar just talked about. And on the other hand, there was Kavanaugh sitting there representing the failure of democracy, the inability of politicians, especially men in power, to really allow themselves to listen to the stories of the women they represent, to allow themselves to govern by listening, to imagine that their role is actually to bring the voices of the people they represent, maybe people whose life experiences they don't share, but whose aspirations they can actually try to understand. So I saw the presence of Justice Kavanaugh as a reminder of how much work we have to do to make sure that that our democracy really works for us. But I was also sitting there feeling so much gratitude for the wave of women, for the boldness of the leadership of the new, especially the new freshman class that includes Representative Omar, my own Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Rashida Tlaib, and so many other women who are really speaking to this idea that we can be a country that includes all of us, that we can actually have a future that includes all of us, and a future that recognizes the abundance of this country, and says in this abundance we should all be able to have healthcare, we should all be able to have dignified jobs, we should all be able to have time to rest, time for our families, a planet that where we have clean air and water. So I felt moved by I was very aware of how momentous it was and how much the moment was pregnant in some ways with possibility. And then Trump was Trump. He was still scapegoating immigrants. He was still telling lies. He was still speaking from both sides of his mouth, both talking about unity and immediately after that saying, well, we can only be unified if you don't investigate me. So I was just very aware of how much of a contrast we have in this moment.
And if you could give a brief response to his claim once again that the country is being invaded by caravans of migrants, and his call for more troops, his direction to have more troops sent to the border.
President Trump has been using immigrants as a scapegoat from the beginning of his campaign, from day one. It is a playbook that has worked for him because he knows that in the psyche of this country, you can appeal to fear and to a sense of lack of safety to justify the most horrible policies, whether it was slavery, Jim Crow, and now his anti-immigrant policies. There is a through line, and there has always the use of the threat of criminal behavior, and especially the use of the threat of danger to the women has been central to kind of racist policymaking in this country, and he's appealing to that. I was not at all surprised that he spent so much time talking about the caravan and again spewing lies. When in reality, there is in fact a crisis. There is a crisis that he has created. There is a crisis of refugees that are coming to our ports of entry, which is exactly what refugees are supposed to do. It's exactly the legal way, and they are being turned around and sent back into violence and death. There is a crisis because families are being separated and thousands of children are in cages and thousands of parents are looking for them without knowing how to find them and reconnect with them. There is a crisis because people who have been in this country for decades, people with TPS, people with other immigration statuses that Trump has put in danger and has ended, essentially, are now having to imagine having to confront the possibility that they will be sent back to a country that is no longer their home. And so there is a real crisis. And
Ana Maria, even the latest news that it is believed thousands more, the government is admitting children. They don't even know where they are, that they separated. Finally, we just have 20 seconds, but both you and Congressmember Ocasio-Cortez were wearing pins showing Jacqueline Kalmakin, the 7-year-old migrant girl who died while in U.S. Customs CBP custody in New Mexico?
Yes, both of us were wearing the face of Jacqueline on our hearts because we want to remind people of the danger of giving Donald Trump a single dollar for his wall and for his anti-immigrant policies. Every dollar that goes to ICE and Border Patrol is a dollar that will result in more deaths at the border, that will result in more families separated, it will result in more children in cages and more deportations. This is not who we are.
Ana Maria Archila, I want to thank you for being with us, whose foot in the door, in the elevator door of Jeff Flake when he was going to vote for Justice Kavanaugh, Supreme Court Justice, led to her invitation to the House of Representatives, and of course her years of activism before. Ana Maria Archila, co-executive director of the Center for Popular Democracy.